In Mexico and South America, from Egypt to India, throughout the world, people have fables, legends, and even religions which center around visits from foreign astronauts. Of course, they don't call them astronauts, but gods who came to Earth in miraculous sky vehicles. We could easily accept these tales as mere fantasy, were they not reported among people the world over. Written accounts of godlike visitors abound. For example, in the books of the Tibetan Kanshur. The Kanshur consists of over 1,000 volumes containing the holy texts of Lamaism. The secret code of these texts is the most complex devised by man. Only 1/100th of the Kanshur has been deciphered. The resulting texts, which we can now read, are full of references to gods appearing in the sky, of the luminous pearls and transparent spheres that these gods lived in. Once these books have been completely deciphered, they are bound to yield much more information about these mysterious space visitors. In India, the wisdom of the Mahabharata commands great respect. It is the national epic poem, much loved by the people. Its 80,000 verses are 6,000 years old. This is a part of the Mahabharata in which we also come upon stupefying evidence of gods come to earth. The poems speak repeatedly of vimanas. These are vehicles which fly to great heights by means of mercury and powerful upward wind currents. This reconstruction of Vimana was made by Dr. Kazantsev, according to the description in the Mahabharata. The author of this passage witnessed what today would be called a blast-off. Bhima flew away in his Vimana on a gigantic beam of light, which shone as the sun, and whose noise was like the thunder of a thunderstorm. Our search for further evidence of visitors from other worlds takes us to Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, the land between two rivers. The museum here provides us with many a link to the past, including accounts written on clay tablets at least 5,000 years ago. Their stony pages tell of mysterious creatures which came to Earth in bursts of smoke and noise. At the turn of the century, a dozen clay tablets were found upon which the Gilgamesh was engraved in cuneiform characters. These are fragments of the Gilgamesh. A creation story in the form of an epic poem is inscribed here. It bears a striking resemblance to the book of Genesis. Yet the authors of the Gilgamesh lived 2,000 years before the men who wrote the Bible. Gilgamesh, the hero of the epic, was part god, part man. The 7th tablet described some amazing travels. Enkidu, a friend of ours here, gives us the first eyewitness report of a space voyage in the Stone Chronicle. After rising skyward in a space chariot for 12 hours, he records, "Gaze down upon the land. What do you see? Look upon the seas. What do they look like? And the earth looked like a meal pap, and the sea like a water trough." The American moon men used very much the same words to describe their impressions of Earth from high in space. We are flying over the Dead Sea. Among these forbidding rock formations near Qumran,
Two young shepherds looking for lost goats found something quite different. In these caves, in 1947, they came upon the so-called Dead Sea Scrolls. They were inscribed on leather about 2,000 years ago. The Qumran texts also speak of strange sky vehicles and of the sons of heaven who came to earth in them. Their arrival and departure were accompanied by clouds of smoke and fire.
Hardly more than 1,000th of these ancient sources has given up its secrets. There are too few scholars at work deciphering the mountains of parchment, bark, or clay documents gathering dust in museums and libraries.
Moreover, what little has been decoded calls for careful study to determine just what verifiable facts they contain. We should no longer permit ourselves to dismiss accounts of sky vehicles and traveling deities as sheer imagination. There is a lesson in the reaction of those South Sea Islanders to their first experience with white men and airplanes. If they'd known how to write, surely their impressions would make fantastic reading. We would be wise to discover what truths lie behind the legends and myths of ancient times, to take them seriously. One man did just that 100 years ago.
Here on the shores of Asia Minor, in 1864, a man came searching for the legendary city of Troy. He found it beneath this hill. Heinrich Schliemann had made up his mind to take the tales of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, literally.
What utter nonsense, said the wise men of his day. Homer's stories were written 8 centuries before Christ, and charming as they are, we all know they are only poetry.
But Heinrich Schliemann had faith in the factual, historical side of the blind bard's accounts. And at last, his faith was rewarded. Following the poet's lead, he found ancient Troy. Imagine his pleasure in giving his wife jewelry he had unearthed in Priam's royal treasure house.
Imagine his satisfaction in locating Troy exactly where Homer said it was. Schliemann was ridiculed in his own day. Today, he is considered one of the greatest archaeologists of all times. Following his example, let's take another great document literally.
The Bible says,
"Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire." What actually happened? Certainly the 19th chapter of the first book of Moses describes a dramatic event.
God sent his messengers to warn Lot's family of impending disaster. The angels told Lot,
"Flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the hills, lest you be consumed." Today, of course, we know that a mountain offers protection from radioactivity.
The messengers were insistent that he leave the city immediately.
We might well wonder if they had foreknowledge of an atomic explosion.
One thing is certain. The flourishing cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were leveled, laid waste at a single stroke. The kind of power to deliver such a devastating blow was not in man's hands in those days. The report of the catastrophe ends, "Then he looked down and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace." Mount Horeb in the Sinai Range rises more than 6,500 feet above sea level. Here Moses received the 10 Commandments. Here also the Lord gave him the blueprints for the Ark of the Covenant. In chapter 25 of the second book of Moses, he gives directions for the erection of this amazing structure.
"And they shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, 1 cubit and a half its breadth, and 1 cubit and a half its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shall you overlay it. And you shall make upon it a molding of gold round about." The Lord was extremely precise about the building of the ark.